Hey everyone, today we're going to be considering what would happen to the killers of Dead by Daylight had they not been taken by the entity. Of course, much of this will be speculation and theorization, but where there's actual lore evidence for things, I will use that. Think of this video almost like those cheesy credit scenes at the end of films where the outcomes of the characters' stories are summarized in a few lines. Starting off with the earlier killers, they all have fairly similar fates without the entity, as they all kinda commit mass murder just before they're taken, so you can assume that most are just imprisoned. Evan McMillan after the McMillan mining disaster is likely imprisoned, almost definitely for life, for the collective murder of what we know is hundreds of people. As to the estate, as there's no remaining living relatives, it's likely left to be snatched up by the other rich and jealous families in the town of Weeks. Possibly he dies alongside the workers in the mining accident, depending on the exact point when he was taken by the entity. Philip is likely imprisoned also. In the lore it's mentioned that the police discovered the crime scene left behind at Autohaven Wreckers, as well as the spineless Azarov. Philip is likely tracked down and also imprisoned, but still managing to reveal the many crushed bodies within the Autohaven Wreckers cubes of metal. Maybe he escapes and tries to start again, but I think after his failed new start in America, he is left a broken man. After the slaughter at Coldwind Farm and the murder of the Thompsons, as well as the sheriff and many police deputies, Max Thompson Jr. is not in the best of spots. He lives his life on the farm until eventually the deliveries stop coming and the buyers of Coldwind Supply start to become suspicious. After numerous reported murders, police move into the farm, many of them meeting a chainsawy fate as they enter onto the land well known to Billy. Eventually, however, he is likely either captured and imprisoned or shot as he continues to kill anyone who steps on the farm. After the massacre at Crotus Pren, Sally Smithson is quickly found and arrested, spending the rest of her days imprisoned and leaving the surrounding area terrified and the asylum destined to shut down forever. Presuming we are actually taking on the new chronology of Halloween, we can pretty safely say that now, as Myers isn't taken on Halloween night 1978, that the events of the 2018 film would happen, along with its sequels also. So Myers and Laurie have their fiery reunion. Hag is left to live out the rest of her days as a legend in the woods of her secluded village, killing those who trespass into her territory or mess with her hexes. The story of Lisa Sherwood is the one parents tell their children when it comes to messing with magic. After the reveal of Herman Carter and his experiments after the fall of Larry's Memorial Institute, the CIA comes under fire. They are left with no other option but to silence Carter by likely either killing him or making an example out of him and imprisoning him. The Huntress would remain in the Red Forest, surviving and continuing to kill those who entered into her territory, until possibly someone rocks up with a modern automatic weapon, making her axe somewhat obsolete. But hey, she's probably got a good 30 or so more years until she's disturbed by anyone. Bubba's story likely just picks up where it left off, and now the events of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and its following sequels occur. There's no sequel to the 2010 A Nightmare on Elm Street remake, so realistically Freddy just goes around and continues being a creepy dream weirdo, probably focusing on getting revenge on both Quentin and Nancy specifically, after they seem to have kind of killed him in the first film. Amanda Young is taken after having her throat slit, so she basically just doesn't get taken and dies. It's stated that the clown begins to get sloppy in his killing after a victim gets free from their bindings, leading to the clown basically becoming a fugitive, fleeing from law enforcement and hiding within circuses. As he is not taken by the entity at this point, I would presume his sloppiness would eventually catch up to him, and so he would likely be imprisoned, and his horrendous deeds revealed. For Spirit, we can actually assume that she manages to get revenge on her father and kills him for what he did to her. This is kind of bittersweet because in a way he totally deserves it, but by doing this, Rin also becomes a true killer in the real world, making her not so innocent anymore. Potentially after doing this, she continues haunting the estate or finding others similar to her father to punish. As the Legion are unprepared and sloppy in their murder of the store clerk, they are caught by the police and the body up Mount Ormond Resort is uncovered. Frank is likely sentenced to life in prison due to the murder and his coercion of the others to follow his lead. Julie, Joey, and Susie would probably serve shorter sentences as accomplices and possibly even turn their lives around for the better after they are split up from their ringleader Frank. I don't think Julie would let go of Frank, but I think it's possible Susie and Joey would, potentially leaving Ormond behind and starting over, much like how Jeff did. Adiris along with her followers die of the plague, seemingly believing the city of Babylon will never be saved. Very sad. Jed Olson's lore ends with him revealing that he is the Ghostface, as he prepares to leave Roseville, presumably onto another town to begin his ritual over, finding a job at another small town newspaper or similar industry ministry, and beginning to kill once more. As he hasn't been caught up to this point, it's likely he won't be anytime soon, so he just continues his routine and carries on killing. If Demo is its season 1 iteration, well then it just gets incinerated by 11 and dies. If it's its season 3 iteration, it's locked up in Russia with Hopper, and I guess we'll have to wait for season 4 to see where that goes. After killing the lord who desecrated his family name, Kazan is left in a stone mill to slowly die after being beaten down, stabbed and tortured by the lord's townspeople. We can assume without the entity's intervention that Kazan takes his last breath and simply dies of his wounds. After this, he may still become an Oni, except in the real world, which is actually like 10 times worse for humanity, to be honest. Caleb is arrested once more after instigating a prison riot and assisting in the murder of Henry Bayshaw and Hellshire Penitentiary's warden. He is hanged along with the rest of the Hellshire gang. Pyramid Head's story doesn't really change, he probably would just go back to sleep. For Talbot Grimes, he likely actually still manages to enter the entity's realm, regardless of the entity wanting him to or not, as he was actively searching for it and trying to break in, eventually managing to when in a spooky cave. Either he does manage to get in still without being directly taken, or he goes crazy scratching cave walls and dies in his pure insanity. Victor is dead prior to being taken by the entity, so he would just be dead. Charlotte, before getting taken, is freezing slowly by a campfire during a particularly harsh winter. We can presume that as she is not taken in this moment, that after all of her years of survival, she simply freezes to death and is consumed by the frost. Ji-Woon is exposed to the public for what he really is. After torturing and murdering the higher-ups of Mighty One Entertainment, he is stripped of all of his accolades and now widely hated by the public, particularly for the exposure of him letting his no-spin bandmates burn to death. He is likely then shunned and forgotten. Nemesis manages to complete the events of Resident Evil 3, being destroyed by the experimental railgun at Jill's hand, before a nuke is dropped on Raccoon City, eviscerating what remains of him. As you can see, for a lot of the killers, getting taken by the entity is actually surprisingly the better option for a lot of them. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and do drop your own ideas for what would happen if the killers were never taken by the entity down below. Thanks, and goodbye.